The mining station floated in the darkness of space like a forgotten toy. It was old and rusting, held together by prayers and cheap repairs. They called it Horizon 7, and it hung above a massive gas planet that glowed orange and red in the eternal night. Ho worked the night shift alone. He preferred it this way. The other workers talked too much, laughed too loud, and reminded him of things he wanted to forget. 3 years ago, his wife had died on this very station. A pressure failure in Section C, 17 people gone in seconds. He had been in Section B, close enough to hear the alarms but too far to save her. Now he worked nights because the station felt different when everyone slept. Quieter, emptier, like him. He was 34 years old, with tired eyes and hands that knew every pipe and wire on the station. The company paid him well because he never complained, never took sick days, and never made mistakes. He was the kind of worker they loved. Reliable, silent, already broken in ways that did not affect productivity. That night, the ore processing unit started making strange sounds. Ho heard it through the walls. A grinding noise, metal against metal, like teeth chewing on something hard. He grabbed his tools and walked toward Section D, where the big machines lived. The processing unit was massive. It took raw rock from the asteroid mines and crushed it, heated it, separated the valuable metals from the worthless stone. The machine was older than Ho, built in an era when safety was an afterthought. But it still worked, and working machines did not get replaced. He found the problem quickly. A gear had slipped out of alignment. Simple fix. 10 minutes of work, maybe 15. He climbed into the maintenance access point, a narrow space between 2 hydraulic presses. His body fit perfectly in the gap. He had done this 100 times before. He was tightening the last bolt when the machine woke up. There was no warning, no alarm, no flashing light. One moment the presses were still and the next they were moving. Ho tried to pull back, but his head was already between the plates. The metal caught him like a closing fist. He screamed, or tried to. The pressure crushed the sound in his throat. But the machine did not kill him. That would have been merciful. Instead, it stopped halfway, frozen by some glitch in its ancient programming. The hydraulic fluid leaked and hissed. The gears locked in place. And Ho remained trapped, his face pressed against metal that was now fusing with his flesh. The neural interface ports were the worst part. Every worker had them installed in their skulls. Small metal plugs behind the ears that allowed them to connect with equipment, to feel what machines felt, to work faster and smarter. But those ports were never meant to bond permanently with anything. Now they were bonding with the processing unit. Ho felt it happening. Wires growing into his brain like roots seeking water. Cooling pipes piercing his cheeks to regulate the heat building in his skull. His jaw becoming one with the metal framework, his teeth replaced by sensor arrays that tasted electricity instead of food. He was awake for all of it. He felt every change, every invasion, every moment of his body becoming something else. The pain was beyond words. It was not sharp or dull or burning. It was simply everything all at once forever. 3 days passed before they found him. The rescue team cut through walls to reach him. They brought doctors, engineers, specialists from across the solar system. Everyone agreed on one thing. They could not free him. The machine had become part of his nervous system. His brain now depended on the processing unit's power supply. His heart beat in rhythm with hydraulic pumps. Removing the machinery would kill him instantly. They transported him to a medical station, machine and all. It took 17 hours and a cargo ship designed for heavy equipment. Ho remained conscious the entire time, watching through cameras that had become his eyes, listening through microphones that had become his ears. The doctors tried everything. Nanobots to separate flesh from metal, surgical lasers to cut the connections, experimental drugs to regrow organic tissue. Nothing worked. The fusion was too complete, too deep, too permanent. The military came next. They saw opportunity where others saw tragedy. a man permanently connected to industrial equipment. Imagine the applications. Imagine the weapons. Ho refused them all. He could still speak, though his voice now came through speakers meant for equipment status updates. The words sounded wrong, filtered, mechanical, but they were still his words. "Leave me alone," he said. "I want nothing." They argued. They offered money, treatment, hope. He rejected everything. What use was money to a man who could not spend it? What use was treatment when the doctors had already failed? What use was hope when he would spend eternity trapped in this metal hell? Finally, they gave up. They found him a small cargo bay on an abandoned station far from shipping lanes and busy ports. They installed a power generator to keep the machinery running. They arranged for supply drops every few months. Food he could process through tubes. Water filtered and delivered directly to his remaining organic systems. And then they left him alone. For 2 years, Ho existed in darkness. He did not sleep because machines did not need sleep. He did not dream because his brain was too tangled with circuits to produce images. He simply was, a consciousness floating in a sea of metal and wire, waiting for an end that would never come. "I remain like this eternally," he whispered to no one, his voice echoing through empty corridors. The words became his prayer, his curse, his only truth. He had not chosen this existence. He had not earned this punishment. He had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now he was paying a price that had no end. The universe did not answer. The universe never did. But somewhere in the distant stars, a ship was falling through space, carrying an exile who would change everything. Had been running for 63 days. Her ship was dying beneath her, leaking fuel and air and hope with every passing hour. The engines coughed and stuttered like a sick animal. The navigation system showed errors more often than directions. She was lost in a part of space that her people had never mapped, and that was exactly where she needed to be. She was born on a world of silver oceans and purple skies. Her people were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like metal in the light. They had 4 arms, 2 for working and 2 for fighting, and eyes that could see heat as clearly as humans saw colors. For 10,000 years, they had built an empire based on one simple belief. Organic life was sacred. Mechanical existence was sin. Had believed this once. She had grown up hearing stories of the machine plagues that had consumed entire civilizations. Species that merged with technology, that replaced flesh with metal, that forgot what it meant to be alive. They had sworn to prevent such corruption. They called themselves the guardians of organic purity. They traveled the galaxy finding species that had crossed the line, and they erased them. It was not murder, her teachers had explained. It was mercy. Better to die clean than to live corrupted. Had been a diplomat for the conclave, the ruling council of her people. She traveled to new worlds, met new species, judged whether they were pure enough to live. For 30 years, she had done this work with pride. She had believed she was protecting the galaxy from a terrible fate. Then she met the Hollow. They were a small species from a dying world. Their sun was expanding, cooking their planet slowly, and they had no ships fast enough to escape. In desperation, they had turned to technology. They merged their minds with machines, uploaded their consciousness into metal bodies, and built vessels that could carry them to safety. The conclave sent to deliver the verdict. The Hollow had corrupted themselves. They must be destroyed. She arrived at their world expecting to find monsters. Instead, she found families. Parents holding children, friends saying goodbye, elders telling stories to the young so that their history would not be forgotten. They were afraid, yes. They were different, yes. But they were still people. They still loved and hoped and dreamed. And was supposed to kill them all. She could not do it. In that moment, standing before a mother who begged for her child's life, felt everything she believed crumble to dust. She had spent her whole life fighting corruption, but the only corruption she could see was in herself. She helped them escape. 300 Hollow, loaded onto hidden ships, sent through a secret jump gate to a part of space where the Conclave would never think to look. She watched them disappear into the stars, knowing that she had just destroyed her own life to save theirs. The Conclave did not forgive traitors. They did not execute them either because execution was too quick, too merciful. Instead, they exiled her. They erased her name from every record, deleted her from every memory bank, declared that she had never existed. Her family would forget her. Her friends would forget her. She would wander the universe alone until she died, knowing that no one would ever remember she had lived. Now she was here, lost and broken, searching for a place to hide. The abandoned station appeared on her sensors like a ghost. Old human construction, probably a mining outpost from decades past. No life signs, no active signals, just a dead shell floating in the void. Perfect. She docked her ship with shaking hands. The airlock was stiff but functional. The corridors beyond were dark and dusty, filled with the smell of old metal and forgotten dreams. She walked slowly, her 4 arms ready for danger, her heat vision scanning every shadow. The cargo bay was at the end of the longest corridor. She almost walked past it, but something made her stop. A feeling, perhaps, a sense that she was not alone. She opened the door. The thing inside was a nightmare-given form. It was machinery, massive and complex, covered in pipes and wires and blinking lights. But in the center of the machinery, trapped like a fly in a web, was a face. A human face. Flesh merged with metal, eyes replaced by cameras, mouth connected to speakers that hummed with quiet static. Raised her weapon without thinking. Every instinct screamed at her to fire. This was corruption. This was everything her people had taught her to destroy. This was wrong. The face turned toward her, the cameras focused, the speakers crackled to life. "Go ahead," the thing said. Its voice was strange, filtered through circuits, neither fully human nor fully machine. But underneath the distortion, she heard something familiar. Exhaustion. Surrender. The voice of someone who had stopped caring whether they lived or died. "You would be doing me a favor," it continued. His finger tightened on the trigger. One shot and this abomination would end. One shot and she would be the guardian she was trained to be. But she was not a guardian anymore. She was an exile, a traitor, a woman who had thrown away everything because she could not bring herself to kill innocents. Was this creature innocent? She did not know. She did not know anything anymore. She lowered her weapon. "What happened to you?" she asked. The machinery hummed, the cameras blinked. For a long moment there was only silence. Then the thing that had once been a man began to speak, and listened, because listening was all she had left to give. His name was Ho. He had been an engineer, he had been a husband, he had been human. Now he was something else entirely. And somehow, impossibly, found that she understood. Days passed in the abandoned station. Worked on her ship in the hangar bay, replacing broken parts with whatever she could find in the station's storage rooms. The work was slow and difficult. Her ship had been built by engineers, and human parts did not fit easily into alien designs. But she had no choice. She had to make it work. Ho watched her through the station's cameras. He could not help it. The cameras had become his eyes, and the station had become his body. Every corridor, every room, every shadow belonged to him now. He felt the air moving through ventilation shafts like breath in lungs. He felt power flowing through cables like blood in veins. He was no longer a man inside a machine. He was the machine itself. At first they did not speak. Came and went, carrying tools and parts, focused on her work. Ho observed in silence, asking nothing, offering nothing. What was there to say? She was an alien who should hate everything he represented. He was a monster who had forgotten how to hope. They had nothing in common except loneliness. But loneliness has a strange power. It pushes people together even when they have every reason to stay apart. On the 5th day, spoke first. She was sitting in the hangar, eating something from a sealed packet, staring at her damaged ship with tired eyes. "Your station is strange," she said, not looking toward any camera, but she knew he was listening. He was always listening. "Human technology is so primitive. You use bolts and welding instead of molecular bonding. Your power systems waste half their energy as heat. Your air filters are laughably inefficient." She paused. "And yet it all works. Somehow, impossibly, it all works." Ho's voice came through the hangar speakers, soft and crackling. "Humans are good at making things work. We do not build perfect systems. We build systems that can break and be fixed again." Nodded slowly. "The build things to last forever. When they break, we throw them away and build new ones. We never learn to repair." "That seems wasteful." "It is, but waste is better than impurity, according to my people. A thing that is broken is a thing that is flawed. A thing that is flawed is a thing that is corrupted. Better to destroy it than to let the corruption spread." She looked up at the nearest camera. Her silver eyes reflected the dim lights of the hangar. "Is that what you think I am?" Ho asked. "Corrupted?" Was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was quiet and careful. "I used to think so. I used to believe that any merger of flesh and machine was an abomination, that people like you had lost their souls, become something less than alive." She shook her head. "But I have seen too much now. I have met too many people who did not fit into the categories my teachers gave me. I do not know what I believe anymore." "Why did you spare me?" "Because you asked me to kill you," almost smiled. "Only someone with a soul can want to die. Machines do not ask for death. They simply stop working." Ho considered this. In 2 years of isolation, no one had ever said anything like that to him. The doctors had treated him as a problem to solve. The military had treated him as a resource to exploit. His former had treated him as a tragedy to mourn. But no one had ever treated him as a person who was still capable of wanting things. "What happened to you?" he asked. "Why are you running?" Told him. She told him about the Hollow, the dying species who merged with machines to survive. She told him about the order to destroy them, the children begging for their lives, the moment when everything she believed had shattered like glass. She told him about the escape, the exile, the endless running through empty space. "I saved them," she said at the end. 300 lives, and for that I lost everything. My name, my family, my people. I do not exist anymore. I am a ghost." "Then we are the same," Ho said. "I am also a ghost, a man who died but forgot to stop existing." Looked at him. Really looked for the first time since she arrived. She saw the metal plates fused with skin, the wires growing from his skull, the pipes that fed nutrients directly into his remaining organs. She saw the cameras that had replaced his eyes, the speakers that had replaced his voice, the machinery that had swallowed him whole. But she also saw something else, something hidden beneath all the metal and wire, something that refused to die no matter how much it wanted to. "You are not a ghost," she said firmly. "Ghosts cannot help me fix my ship. Ghosts cannot talk to me when I am lonely. Ghosts cannot watch over me while I sleep." She stood up and walked toward the cargo bay where Ho's body was trapped. She stopped at the door, looking at the mass of machinery that held him prisoner. "You are different," she said. "Your body changed, your voice changed, but you are still here, you are still Ho. That means something." The machinery hummed. The cameras blinked. And somewhere deep inside the circuits and wires, Ho felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. It was small and weak, like a candle flame in a storm, but it was there. For the first time since the accident, he did not want to die. He wanted to see what would happen next. He wanted to help this strange alien woman fix her ship. He wanted to matter to someone again. "Thank you," he said through the speakers. His voice crackled and buzzed, but the words were real. "I had forgotten what it felt like to be seen." Smiled. It was a sad smile, tired and worn but genuine. "So had I," she said. "Perhaps we can remind each other." And so they did. Day after day, they talked. They shared stories and memories, fears and regrets. They argued about philosophy and laughed about nothing. They became friends in the truest sense of the word, two broken souls finding pieces of themselves in each other. The galaxy was vast and cold and uncaring. But in this forgotten corner of space, in an abandoned station orbiting a dying star, something warm was beginning to grow. The Conclave had long memories and longer arms. They did not forget traitors, and they did not stop hunting until the hunt was finished. The tracking fleet found Jump's signature on the 67th day. 3 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to crack a small moon. They followed the trail of radiation and engine exhaust across empty space, patient and relentless, like wolves following the scent of wounded prey. Commander Al stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching the navigation display with cold silver eyes. He had known once, years ago, before her betrayal. They had trained together, served together, believed together. Now he had been chosen to erase her from existence. He felt nothing about this. Feelings were weakness, and weakness was corruption. The Conclave had taught him that lesson well. The trail leads to an abandoned human station, his navigator reported. No active signals, no life signs except one signature. She is hiding, Al said. Prepare boarding teams. I want her alive if possible. The Conclave wishes to question her before she is forgotten. The fleet moved toward the station like sharks circling a wounded fish. Inside the station, saw them coming. The long-range sensors were old and half-broken, but they were good enough to show 3 large objects approaching at high speed. She recognized the energy signatures immediately. Warships, hunters. Her blood turned cold. She had been so careful, so quiet. How had they found her? It did not matter now. What mattered was survival. She ran to the hangar, her 4 arms working frantically to prepare her ship. The repairs were almost complete. A few more hours and she could jump away, find another hiding place, keep running. But she did not have hours. She had minutes. "Ho," she called out, knowing he was listening. "They found me, I have to go." His voice came through the hangar speakers, calm and soft. "I know. I see them on the sensors. I am sorry. I brought this danger to you. I should never have stayed so long." "You have nothing to be sorry for. You gave me something I had lost. That is worth any danger." Stopped her work and looked up at the nearest camera. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Come with me," she said. "There must be a way. We can disconnect part of the machinery, load it onto my ship. I will not leave you here to die." "You know that is impossible. The machinery is too large, and disconnecting it would kill me anyway." Ho paused. "Go live, remember me." "I cannot." "You must." The sensors screamed warnings. The ships were entering weapons range. Could see them through the hangar windows now, silver shapes against the black, beautiful and terrible. She climbed into her ship. The engines coughed to life. The hangar doors opened, revealing the cold stars beyond. "Goodbye, Ho," she whispered. "Goodbye." Her ship launched into space, small and fragile against the vastness of the void. The ships turned to follow, their weapons charging with killing light. And Ho watched her go, alone again, waiting for the end. But something stirred inside him, something old and stubborn and human. For 2 years he had wanted to die. For 2 years he had seen no reason to continue existing. But now there was, flying toward danger, about to be captured or killed by enemies who would show no mercy. She had seen him as a person when everyone else saw a monster. She had given him hope when he had none left. She had reminded him what it meant to matter. He could not save her by dying, but perhaps he could save her by living. Ho reached out with his mind, spreading his consciousness through the station's ancient systems. He had spent 2 years learning every circuit, every wire, every forgotten corner of this metal shell. He knew it better than he had ever known his own body. The station was him now, and he was the station. The mining lasers came first. They had been shut down decades ago, deemed too dangerous for normal operation. But Ho remembered where they were hidden, and he remembered how to wake them up. Power surged through cables that had not carried current in 20 years. Targeting systems flickered to life. And from the belly of the station, beams of blue-white light shot toward the fleet. The first ship was caught completely off guard. Its shields were configured for ship-to-ship combat, not for mining equipment designed to cut through asteroids. The laser sliced through the hull like a knife through paper. Explosions bloomed in the darkness. The ship broke apart, scattering debris across the void. The second ship turned to face the threat. Its weapons fired, pounding the station with missiles and plasma bolts. Ho felt each impact like a punch to his body. Pain surged through his nervous system, real and terrible. But he did not stop. He activated the cargo drones next. Hundreds of them, small and fast, designed to carry ore from mining ships to processing centers. They were not weapons, but they did not need to be. At high speed, anything was a weapon. The drones swarmed the second warship like angry bees. They crashed into engines, blocked sensor arrays, clogged weapons ports. The ship spun wildly, trying to shake them off, but there were too many. Its reactor overloaded. Another explosion. Another victory. The third ship was smarter. It pulled back, putting distance between itself and the station. Its commander sent a frantic message to the conclave. The station is alive. The human is the station. Request immediate reinforcements. But reinforcements were far away and was already jumping to safety. Her ship disappeared in a flash of light, gone to some distant corner of the galaxy where they could not follow. Ho watched her go. The station was burning around him. Systems were failing. Power was draining. He had won, but the victory had cost him almost everything. The third ship fled into the darkness, carrying news of what it had witnessed. News of a human who had become a machine, and a machine that had become a weapon. In the silence that followed, Ho laughed. It was a broken sound, half human and half static, but it was real. He had protected her, he had mattered, and that was enough. The survivor's report reached the conclave 7 days later. Commander Al had died with his ship, but the third vessel's captain delivered the news in person, standing before the assembled council with terror still fresh in her eyes. "One human," she said, "broken, trapped, half dead, and he destroyed 2 of our warships." The council members exchanged glances. This was impossible. Humans were primitive creatures, barely capable of reaching their own neighboring stars. They did not merge with machines because they lacked the technology. They did not fight because they lacked the strength. They were beneath notice. And yet, how? The High Speaker demanded. "I do not know," the captain admitted. "He became the station. He controlled it like a body. We were fighting the entire structure, not just one man." "Then we will send a larger fleet. We will destroy the station completely." "With respect, High Speaker, the station is already destroyed. Our weapons damaged it beyond repair. But the human survived. He is still there in the wreckage, waiting." "Waiting for what?" The captain had no answer. Across the galaxy, word spread through channels they did not control. Smugglers whispered to merchants. Merchants whispered to travelers. Travelers whispered to refugees. The story changed with each telling, growing larger and stranger, but the core remained the same. There was a human who had become a machine. There was a station that had become a weapon. There was a place where they could not reach, where hunted people could find safety. They called it the refuge. Returned 3 weeks after the battle. She had found a safe place to hide, repaired her ship properly, and gathered supplies. She expected to find a corpse. Instead, she found Ho, still alive, still trapped, still watching through cameras that somehow continued to function. "You came back," he said through speakers that crackled and sparked. "Of course I came back." Stepped through the ruined airlock, picking her way carefully through debris. "Did you think I would abandon you? I thought you would be smart enough to run." "Then you do not know me very well." She found his cargo bay, half collapsed and filled with broken machinery. But the core systems were intact. The power still flowed, and Ho's face, trapped forever in metal and wire, still looked out at the universe with cameras that had become his eyes. Sat down beside him. She did not speak for a long time. She simply stayed, sharing the silence, proving that she was real. "I heard what you did," she finally said. "2 warships, you destroyed 2 warships. I had to protect you. You nearly killed yourself. I was already dead. You brought me back to life. I owed you a death in return." Laughed. It was a strange sound in the ruined station, bright and warm against the cold metal. "You humans are insane," she said. "You know that." "So I have been told." More refugees came. Word of the refuge spread faster than they could suppress it. First, one ship, carrying 3 members of the Hollow the species had saved years ago. They had heard the stories and followed them here, seeking safety. Ho welcomed them through his speakers, guided them to quarters that still had air and heat, watched over them while they slept. Then more ships came. A family of traders who had been caught selling technology to forbidden species. A scientist who had refused to help develop weapons. A group of children whose parents had been erased for questioning the Conclave's laws. They arrived broken and afraid, carrying nothing but hope. Ho helped them all. He could not walk among them or shake their hands or embrace them when they cried, but he could speak to them through speakers. He could guide them through corridors with lights. He could protect them with the weapons he had discovered inside himself. They sent more ships. Ho destroyed them. They sent assassins. He found them and locked them in airlocks. They sent spies. He watched them constantly, learning their secrets, turning their information against them. He became a legend, the machine man, the living station, the ghost in the walls. Different species called him different names, but they all meant the same thing. Here was someone who would protect you. Here was someone who would not give up. Here was someone who had every reason to die but chose to live instead. Years passed. The station was rebuilt, piece by piece, with parts donated by grateful refugees. New sections were added. New systems were installed. Ho grew with it, his consciousness expanding to fill every corner, every wire, every camera and sensor and weapon. He was no longer just a man trapped in machinery. He was something new, something that had never existed before. A human mind spread across an entire structure, feeling walls and corridors the way others felt fingers and toes. And he was happy. For the first time since the accident, he was truly happy. Stayed with him. She became his voice when he needed to speak face to face with visitors. She became his hands when something needed to be touched with flesh instead of metal. She became his friend, his partner, his family. One night, as they watched the stars together through the observation deck windows, she asked him the question that had been on her mind for years. "Do you regret it, staying like this? You could have let them end it. You could have found peace." Ho was quiet for a long moment. Then his voice came through the speakers, warm and soft, almost human again. "I was alone," he said, "and then I was not. I was broken, and then I was needed. I was dying, and then I found reasons to live." He paused. "That is all any of us are looking for, is it not? Someone to see us, someone to need us, someone to remind us that we matter." Smiled. "You sound almost wise." "I have had a lot of time to think." In the docking bay below, a new ship was arriving. Another group of refugees, another collection of lost souls seeking shelter. Ho activated the landing lights, opened the airlock, and prepared to welcome them home. "Welcome to the refuge," he said through speakers that echoed across the entire station. "You are safe now." And they were. The galaxy was vast and cold and dangerous. The still hunted, enemies still threatened. But here, in this corner of space, there was a place where the broken could heal, where the hunted could rest, where the forgotten could be remembered. It was built by a human who had lost everything and found something better. It was protected by a man who could not move but would never stop fighting. It was home to anyone brave enough to seek it out. This was humanity's gift to the universe, not strength or technology or weapons, but something simpler and more powerful. The refusal to give up, the decision to matter, the choice, always the choice, to reach toward the light even in the deepest darkness. Humanity, forever reaching, forever refusing to stay down. And the universe slowly was beginning to notice.